Welcome to the Massage Tools Podcast, your home for cool interviews and reviews. Vince, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to hit you with
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm going to hit you with a quick three. First off, where did you go to school?
So my traditional schooling for getting certified and all that stuff was at the American European Massage Clinic. And then my formal ISTEM training was with Lorianne Halburn, Lorianne, at her Muscular Therapy Institute.
Okay, excellent. How long have you been in the massage field?
Total 12 years now.
Okay.
7 of those have been in the sports massage realm. Those first 5 years, it was mostly me kind of bouncing around trying to figure out what I wanted, where my niche was, that kind of thing.
Okay. And then what got you into massage? And if you want to tail into that sport, or you can just, what got you into the field initially? That's the big one.
Gotcha. So getting into school, I used to actually work as a barback, and I worked on people after hours. And just people told me I had a decent skill for it, natural kind of feel for it, and it encouraged me to kind of explore that process and that route. And it took me a few years to even be like, oh yeah, let's do that. But eventually I made it, and it's worked out pretty well. It's one of the best decisions I've made.
Awesome. Yeah. You're doing real well, it seems like. So good decision.
I cannot complain whatsoever. In the sports realm, what really got the sports piece started was honestly so you remember when you and I took that Ironman training with Lorianne for post Ironman race type work. That's what got it going. That's where it all started.
Okay.
And it's just kind of blown up from there.
Yeah, that's a bit of an understatement. Speaking of blowing up, you own Myology Sport Massage. Yeah. You're kind of rocking the T-shirt. We can sort of see that. Yeah. There it is.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Always branding.
Yeah, always branding. Yeah, that's why I got you here. But so Myology, you kind of gave it away already. You're in that sport niche. Go tell us a bit more about your clientele or what you tend to cater towards.
So everything got started catering towards the CrossFit community. It was just something that came across, noticed that there was really nobody going after it, nobody kind of really saying that's what I want to be working with. And we got in real early as far as with that field, and it honestly just kind of took off. But I will say the first couple of years, those were pretty tough. I was traveling. I was in my office one day a week, I'll put it that way. And I was traveling, 5 to 6, just trying to build up a base, build up recognition and all that good stuff.
Okay.
That's how I kind of got going.
When you say traveling, do you mean going to events, or do you mean going to other gyms and doing pop-up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So sporting events mostly.
Okay.
Just always were trying to find out who had an event where, and do you have body work on site? Would you like body work on site? And just trying to find every single one of those and be at as many as possible. There were some cases where I was traveling, a couple hours just to go to an event, and a couple hours back home after it was all said and done, just long days. And then also contacting CrossFit facilities, because that's kind of how our bread and butter has worked, is contacting CrossFit facilities to see if they would like body work in their facility, make it easy for their people to kind of get that type of thing done.
Okay. So that in-house or in-gym kind of model is definitely, that's what I know you for. It's what a lot of folks know you for.
To be honest with you, I remember that conversation that you and I had way back when, and that was with Jim Barone out in, I think it was Apex. It was God, what was the name of his facility? I can't even remember off the top of my head, but it was way out in Apex, and you're like, hey, I heard this guy's looking for some people. You might want to check them out, and this, that, and the other. And that one didn't work out, but that was just the start of that whole process.
Okay, cool. I was there in the beginning. What?
Yeah, you have been there the entire time, my friend. You and I took our first rock tape course together.
We did, and that was still early in the rock tape days before they got
very early,
really training. But yeah,
we had Perry as our teacher
Yes.
That's how early that was.
Yeah, Perry Nicholson. I'll throw that in the show notes and whatnot. He is quite.
He's a legend.
Yeah, exactly. Legendary. He's quite the character to follow, and
absolutely.
Throw in his stuff. So, what are some of the pros and cons for someone might be interested in that in-house model or in-gym model, whatever you prefer to call it?
Absolutely. So, one, it cuts down on overhead expenses. So if you're trying to figure that stuff out, it'll keep the budget within reason. It has built-in foot traffic for the most part. So if you're in a commercial space, and you're trying to pull people in, that's a little bit harder than if you have people actually walking by your door all the time. You get cross referrals. Coach out there saying, "Man, you're moving like crap." Or they're out there telling the coach, "Hey, man, this hurts and I can't really move through X, Y, and Z motion." Well, you need to go see Myology. You need to go see somebody over there and get an appointment. So that works out really well. Cons, it's not always a private space. There are several facilities where we are set up on the floor. And just working on people. Now, we don't have people undress or anything like that. We work with sports bras, shorts, t-shirts, tanks, all that good stuff. So that works in our favor. We don't really have to worry about the draping piece of it because we don't remove anything. Now, and potentially loud music, barbells dropping in the background, or even popping up against your wall if you're situated that way. Sometimes there's, like boundary issues with the clients that are out there and that are working out. They roll by your space. "Hey, Vince, woo, what's up?" And you're in the middle of a session and it's not even a CrossFit client. It's like, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize about that.
Yeah. When we kind of met, I was sort of doing the in-gym model myself. And
Right. You're at CrossFit RDU. I mean, no, Durham.
Durham. CrossFit Durham. Now it's Courage Fitness Durham. They separated out with all that. But it was interesting. Like there are times that I loved it, like that foot traffic coming through, like basically in between sessions. In the first spot I was at, it's great. Like I just open my door and stand out, watch classes, watch movement patterns, watch coaches and cueing, and a lot of that. And then you get the walk bys, like so many walk bys.
And if you have somebody that either had to reschedule an appointment or you got a space that just has to be free, you can sometimes just literally walk out. "Hey, you need some time? Come on in." And,
I got an hour right now. Anybody?
Hey, you got 30? Come on. I got 30. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it'll happen sometimes. So it makes it easy to kind of fill those gaps also in your schedule. So it works out pretty well. I think the pros outweigh the cons the majority of the time.
Okay. So that's a good list. Who might you recommend to seek this out, or maybe who it isn't for?
Well, I mean, so in the beginning, we were always focused on, athletes and this, that, and the other. But in all honesty, if you're an athletic individual, I don't care what your deal is. I mean, it can be in the park, whatever workout, or you can be the most serious thing in the world going to the Olympics. If you have a movement restriction, that's what we focus on. We're here to help you move better, just like yourself. What you do. We're here to help you move better. So it's really geared towards anybody that has that as a goal going into a session.
Okay.
Now, if you're coming in to relax and you want like the waterfalls and all that good stuff, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
What's kind of funny is I've had a lot of calls from my Google ads here lately about, do we do lymphatic massage? And I'm very frank with them. I'm like, guys, that's part of our treatment. It's a very small part as far as how we go about things. So if you're looking for an entire session, no, this is not going to be the place that you should probably go.
Right.
You probably need to find somewhere that focuses and specializes on it. So, forgot where we're at, to be honest with you. I kind of went off on the trail there.
No, it's good. You're just, what specific clientele wise? What about if there's a therapist out there that's considering like, maybe I should go for this like sport in-house model or whatnot. So from that standpoint, who, personality, not necessarily personality types, but maybe, you could, like, one simple thing is like, this isn't for you if you want to do the spa relaxation type. So are there considerations from a therapist side of it to go into this field?
So outside of the obvious of if you're looking for spa work, that's probably not the place for you. You need to be sports oriented as far as how you look at things. You need to be movement oriented and be able to watch somebody do an exercise and be like, I don't know if this is for sure, but you might have some restriction here, or here, because for me, how I kind of got clientele in the very beginning is I was be out there watching movements and I'd be like, how did that feel to you? Not, hey, it looks like you got this wrong, but how did that feel to you? And you got to be able to have an answer, for what you're asking.
Sure.
So
sure.
Again, you have to be able to see it and kind of understand what you're getting at.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the big ones. But I mean, if you want to go in that field, you also have to be confident in yourself, because there can be a lot of people that challenge you. Because just like I'm sure you've got clients where if they have something going on, they have done 90 hours of homework on this little muscle or this little joint, and they can tell you all the things about it. And then they come into your hour session or even half-hour session and are like laying it on you. So you got to be confident in what you know and how you deal with sports, and just kind of be able to honestly take all that in and summarize it and be like, I think we're going to start here, kind of thing.
Yeah. Clinical rationale goes a long way. Or protocol rationale, however you want to articulate it, like goes a long way with clients, because sometimes they come in, they're like, yeah, I've got this muscle, yada, yada, yada. You're like, that's the smoke alarm. That's not the fire. So we're going to look at the fire and deal with that.
Symptom versus causation. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. So the big reason I brought you onto the podcast is one of the things I feel you do exceptionally well is branding. Like I said, we kind of showed off your the brand itself. So, when it comes to branding, it's sometimes an ambiguous term where you can mean, you say Nike and everybody thinks of swoosh. So there's the icon or the kind of material side of it. And then there's the kind of the essence of the company. Because you also say Nike and you're like, okay, sports apparel. So you have that association versus material side of it. Yeah. So we sort of covered a bit of it, but what kind of got you to the essence or the idea behind Myology Sport Massage?
So, I mean, I knew I wanted it to be sports centered. That's just where we are. That's what we deal with. That's what we do. And I knew I wanted it to revolve around muscles and fascia. But I also wanted it to be something that made sense to the audience. To my audience, and Myology, which my wife actually came up with the name, nice. Means the study of muscle, and she threw that out there, and I was like, yeah, I get that, but that's got to be taken. There's no way that that's not taken. Like somebody has that somewhere, and sure enough, it was not. Yeah. And I was just like, okay, I think that's where we're going.
Okay.
But I mean, we played around with a bunch of names. I mean, there was probably a list of 20, 30 names, and just none of it really didn't really make you, oh yeah, that's it. No. Okay. So, but she came up with that one. I was like, if that one's available, that sounds like a winner.
All right. I guess getting into the physical, because kind of once you came up with the name, looking at your physical brand, you've got the M, the star above it.
Yeah.
So how did you go about figuring out the logo? Did you go to a graphic designer? Did you have someone that helped you with that, or is it all Vince?
No, buddy. I had a lot of help.
Okay.
I am good at a lot of things, but also am not good at a lot of things. So I had a lot of help, and I actually had a friend who actually still helps me with my apparel. And at the time I was really strapped financially and whatnot. And he had some friends that were in the marketing and branding business out in Texas. And they do a lot of active and sports stuff. And he believed in me so much in what I was trying to do so much at the time that he actually fronted me what it was going to cost to hire those people to help me design a logo.
Awesome.
and like design content for the website and that kind of stuff. And that's probably one of the single biggest hands and lifts, someone helping you up kind of situations that I've ever received in my life.
Okay.
And so that's actually where the logo came from. These guys sent me like this deck of like 6 or 8 logos. I can't remember right now. There's probably 3 or 4 that were just kind of like obligatory kind of like designs. And then they had like 2 or 3 that were just like stand out. And this is the one that just resonated with me the most. I liked simple, just clean.
Sure.
Type look, contrast, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
And that's what they put together for me. And I have just been ecstatic with how it's gone ever since.
Cool. Yeah, that's and you put it on. It seems like everything because I've seen
it. I do.
Yeah, and it the color green that you utilize stands out.
Yeah.
It's obvious.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, way back in the process of colors, it was actually honestly going to be because the Carolina Panthers kind of had that electric blue thing.
Sure.
And I didn't want to fall into that hole of being associated technically, or taking somebody's color or whatnot. So it was between like a hot pink and this lime green.
Yeah.
And so I stuck with the lime green.
Yeah, and it's apparent, and you've put that logo on everything from swim caps to sweatshirts to vests to headbands. Am I missing any of the major components?
Shirts, sweatshirts, joggers, everything. I have put it on. So when I look at the stuff, either I pay for advertising or do I invest in this apparel and all that good stuff for people to wear. Where's my marketing dollars best suited?
Sure.
And I don't advertise. I don't utilize radio. I don't utilize a lot of the main platforms that you would consider for advertising. And I put a lot of it into apparel. Because I mean, a walking billboard is generally your best way of advertising and the word of mouth piece.
Yeah. And then one other thing that I tend to see your branding on that is definitely a standout is your tent for your like event setup. So you've got, is it like a 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 pop tent?
I've got multiples.
Oh well, okay, but you just set one up. Was it CrossFit Goliath that you just did?
Yeah. That was a 10 by 10.
Okay. Yeah.
I've got a larger 10 by 15 as well.
Okay.
So I have a few of them at this point.
I'm sure. You've got it all branded out or laid out and whatnot. So, from a background, is that an experience that you had or brought into it, or is that something you had help with or hired help for it?
So I grew up at a young age, I was very much so an artist all through high school. Got kind of lost that flair and whatnot as I got older. But I was in retail, for a majority of my 20s. Whether it was, the entry level or being a manager or whatever the case may be. So I was around branding, staging, marketing, all that good stuff for a very long time. And I didn't realize, honestly, how much I retained that until I started doing it myself.
Sure.
And I'm just like, oh, yeah, that actually looks like it should go there and up there. I'm like, that's kind of going good. All right, cool. So okay. I think it's honestly that retail background that I did for 10 plus years.
Okay.
Just subconsciously taking it all in because I dealt with it so much.
Yeah. Is that something you would say is probably missing a bit from the standard massage education?
They don't do it at all. I mean, they don't teach you how to brand at all.
Sure.
I think it's kind of the same way when you came through, but when we went to massage school, they kind of taught you how to take the test. They geared you towards what was going to be on the test. I mean, you didn't even really specialize until you got out and got licensed, and started doing your continuing ed stuff. And so if you're not one of those therapists that thinks you need to go take a business class or a marketing class or a branding class, you're probably never going to get exposed to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's one of those. That's kind of been a a trend so far on the podcast with the guests. It's business courses when it comes to branding, things like that. They say that's a kind of a weak element to.
And I've heard that a few times listening to some of the other podcasts. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty common thread.
Yeah. So in addition to the branding, you actually went through, we'll call it a rebranding process.
Yeah.
You're working for someone else under a different name, and then wanted to step out. So do you mind telling us a little bit about that process?
Yeah, I can't speak to the previous brand itself, but it was probably one of the most difficult mental and emotional times of my career.
Okay.
Just because I was so vested in that previous company as well. But however, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my business and my relationships in the community. And I also learned that your brand is what you make of it. It doesn't make you. You make it.
Of course.
So, like, you could take Randori and do something completely different tomorrow, and as long as you gave it 1,000% of your sweat, it's going to be just as successful as Randori is right now.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Appreciate you saying that, but
yeah.
I guess my idea is, or the purpose of the question is, if someone's maybe working for somebody, whether they're in a big box or maybe they're working for a smaller whatnot, but they want to step away. It sounds like you kind of already had a lot of you did have the marketing background coming in. Right. So it sounds like you were applying that skill set to the previous company, and you're like, well, now I'm just going to apply it to mine. But I guess, was there any, in addition to the process of deciding on Myology and the logo, was there anything else in that process that might be a valuable tip to share to somebody if they want to venture out?
So getting started in general, whether it's a rebirth, whatever the case may be, branding is not cheap. It is not something that comes easily when it comes to putting products out there. So you need to be smart with your money. Don't overspend and think you have to have A to Z product-wise straight out the gate, because that's not how I did it.
Okay.
I pick and chose things that were going to be pillars for my branding, such as my tent.
Okay.
My employee shirts, stuff that needs to be on point very quickly. So like even with the shirts, so we have our main logo on the front. Mm-hmm. We have our names on the side. We have the flag on the right hand side, and that is just our appreciation to the military. And then on the back we have. I'm gonna take that out real quick.
Sure.
We have the main logo. So back in. So we have, I think, 5 different spots that we put something on our shirt. Okay. And that's also not inexpensive when you're getting that done, because if you're doing screens, that's 5 different screens you have to pay for and all that fun stuff. So it's just be mindful with what you decide to invest your marketing money into first. But if you're doing events and stuff like that, I would say your employee shirts and a tent done well is the best way to start with your money.
You mentioned your employees. So rewinding back to Myology a little bit more, you've got how many folks working for you, and how many CrossFit gyms? They call them boxes, but for the non-CrossFit community, how many boxes are you in?
So we have 7 therapists, including myself. And we work in Raleigh, Cary, Durham, and Greensboro. We work with, I think we're around 15 facilities right now. It's been much higher, but that's also when we were traveling much more.
Sure.
And so we've tried to kind of hone it back a little bit and make the most out of like our office areas that we do have 4 walls that are private, and just put more energy into those. So that meant not traveling as much. So that's probably pared down about 15, I think, at this point. But we do have like 5 private offices right now. We have one at 12th State CrossFit, one at CrossFit RDU, CrossFit Brave out in Cary, CrossFit Versatile in Greensboro, and then where I'm at right now, CrossFit Goliath.
Okay. That's great. And so I guess as an extension of the branding marketing, and this is one it's been really interesting, and I haven't seen a whole lot mentioned out there in the massage community, but you've actually sponsored athletes in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And what made you decide on sponsoring athletes?
Yeah, so I think right now we have probably, I want to say 12 athletes that we do a year-round sponsorship with right now.
Okay.
But it just seemed like the natural thing to do. Athletes are always, repping brands that they support or support them. There's something special about seeing an athlete or a team with a clean, cohesive look. Mm-hmm. It almost demands attention, if it's done properly. As one of the branding gurus, like I was talking about Gary Vaynerchuk earlier, when we were offline, he says, we're always day trading attention. And that's what having those athletes wearing your stuff is doing. That's what, having a good uniform shirt or good nice tint at a athletic endeavor, does for you. You're day trading attention.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it seems
fit for us.
It seems obvious, and I have seen the question posed by other sport massage therapists, like, "Hey, has anybody sponsored an athlete? What does that look like, etc." So I'm like, I mean, I know a guy that does it, so can pick your mind. And I guess off of that, what are you don't have to get into too great a detail, but what are some of the logistics of it? Like, are they getting like free sessions, or they just get free swag or free entry to events, or?
And I'll give you the whole breakdown,
sure,
because I don't mind that at all. Yeah. First things first, everyone has to have skin in the game. So that being said, we don't do 100% sponsorships.
Okay.
So, the athlete has to be currently using us for recovery. We have to know they value our service. The athlete gets 50% off of body work throughout the year if they're a yearly athlete.
Okay.
We do have some where it's just for the event. And in those cases, just like the yearly athletes, they'll get free body work if we're at the event.
Okay.
Once approved, for our year-round athletes, we offer 50% registration reimbursement. So it's not like open to everybody, because we have a certain dollar value that we have to be capped at.
Sure.
So we can't just do that for everybody, but if it's approved, we offer 50% off that registration. And apparel, at minimum, we give them shirts and headbands.
Okay.
The longer they're with us, the more they'll get from us.
Okay.
We've, like we were talking about earlier, we've done joggers, hoodies, t-shirts, socks, hats, swim caps. What we ask for them is at minimum, once a month, post tagging us, either while they work out or in their swag, or at appointments, or working out in their swag at appointments. Exactly. But that's at minimum what we ask of them.
Okay.
Like I said, we've done 100% sponsorships before, but they don't always. All the ones we've done have not really worked out. They eventually kind of come around and kind of bite you in the butt a little bit.
Okay.
Like I said, it's always better when everyone has skin in the game.
Okay. So having the skin in the game is a huge consideration. Are there other considerations for athlete sponsorship? Like maybe pitfalls or anything like that to avoid?
So, I mean, if you're going to go that route, you need to make sure you have a very open line of communication with the athlete, what your expectations are, find out what their expectations are of you. Because you may let them down on something if you're not aware of what their expectations are from a bodywork standpoint for what you do for them.
Right.
So it's honestly just communication. If you're going to go that route, know exactly what they want from you. They need to know exactly what you expect from them. And then whatever else you work out is what you work out, but it needs to be that communication.
Okay. Awesome. That's like I said, you were the first person in my mind when that question kind of popped up on a thread. I'm like, Vince, they need to talk to Vince. And
and I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah. Is there anything else from kind of the branding, marketing, sponsorship that you want to share with us, or that you're like, ah, Kelly, you should ask this question or whatnot?
For anybody that's uh, looking to do sports or sponsor or anything like that, just I would advise finding your niche. Um, Even get uber specific about your niche,
Okay.
and then just be the best you can be in that area and grow from there.
Okay.
Because I mean, in all honesty, we started out with using CrossFit as our base.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's much broader, much broader. But we couldn't do that from the beginning.
Right.
We had to start uber specific and just kind of build and grow from there.
Sure. Yeah, it's an advice that I've heard from a lot of different systems or a lot of different practitioners. Yeah, niching down is kind of one of the terms. I'm like niche down, niche down, but
yeah. Either way,
it's get specific, or they even I've heard it articulated as what's your avatar. Like, what is your? And I'm like, the tall blue folks are like Aang with all the martial arts. They're like, no. it's what is your ideal client, and like get specific, like all the demographics that they would fall into, whether it's sport, age, income bracket, all these other things, and that's it was a interesting way to present the idea, and that is I guess a tip that I've picked up for learning to niche down, because you may have a desire in something and no background in it, but if you just sit down, you're like, who do I want to spend my time with on the table? That's one of the pieces that I've come across.
I mean, I heard this in a commercial with Matthew McConaughey. He says to find out where you are, start with eliminating what you're not, and go from there.
Yeah.
If you're not lymphatic, then you don't want to go that direction. If you're not, someone who wants to do relaxation, well, then I wouldn't advise going to a spa. Eliminate what you're not, and then you're kind of left with some stuff to really hone in on.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the game of Perfection, to go back to an 80s game where you had to put all the pieces in before the timer ran out and it popped out. And it's like it's real easy. You pick up the piece that looks like a star. You're like, it's not this slot, so you just keep going through and I like that. Find at least define what you're not, and then you've got some narrowing.
It's one of the quickest ways to just kind of start paring it down. All right, that's not me. Yep, that's off the table. That's off the table, and just keep going from there.
Cool. Is there? I mean, that kind of answered the question for me, but is there anything else for anybody who's maybe thinking about leaving the more traditional massage environment and heading out, whether it's sport or maybe just breaking out of a big chain or anything like that?
I mean, if you're going to break out, I would hope you have some idea of the direction you would like to start heading in.
Okay.
If it is sport and you haven't maybe had a bunch of CEUs in that direction or whatnot, I would start looking at those, Tom Myers, anatomy trains.
Sure.
I mean, that guy is fantastic. He's a god. And there's so many more, but that is one of the big ones.
Sure.
Just learn the basics and kind of build from there. There's a lot of sport related therapists that you could start paring down to mimic their style or how they go about things. But you need to know where you're going if you're going to break out. Otherwise, you're just going to start treading water like everybody else.
Gotcha. Cool. Moving on to some of my typical podcast questions.
Nice.
So one of them is, what's a question you wish people would ask you that they typically don't? And you could have that as another therapist or as a client, or you could answer it both ways.
So I thought about that one quite a bit, and I had a different answer prepared for that, and I changed it.
Okay.
Because the question is, how should you approach business?
Okay.
Because there's such a lack, as we said before, of people understanding how to go about it. They understand how to do the work, but they don't really understand how to navigate the business aspect of it.
Sure.
And the term is and this is something I learned also from Gary Vaynerchuk, is to lean into the gap.
Okay.
Lean into the GAP, and the GAP stands for gratitude, accountability, and perspective. Be grateful for the process, what you've accomplished, and the opportunities that are in front of you. Accountability, be accountable for your present and your future that you're trying to create. Be accountable to your business, your employees, your community. You want them to support you, but what are you doing to support them? Mm-hmm. Perspective. Have perspective of where you are and the journey it took to get there. Have perspective of how hard things actually are versus the rest of the world. Are you Chicken Little, having a Chicken Little scenario, or is it really that big of a deal? Have perspective of time. I'm 44, mm-hmm. Yet I feel like I have another entire lifetime ahead of me to grow and do and create. That's insane to think about. Yeah. Most people, when they get past the age of 35, like, oh God, it's over. I'm done. I can't do anything anymore. But you have so much time ahead of you. It just depends on what you want to do with it.
Sure.
But just keep that perspective.
Now I have my secret question, because I did send you the ones ahead of time.
Yes.
But I like this one to be kind of on the fly.
Genuine.
But it's secret. But it's if you had to put something about, it could be Vince, it could be myology, or it could be massage therapy. But if you had to put something on a billboard, what would you put on
it? That's a good one. So even at this point, even though I'm so young in my career and whatnot, I'm really big on legacy. Like, what can I leave behind?
Okay.
So it would probably be something around myology, just that would further its growth, further its endeavor, going into the future, long after I'm able to keep practicing on the table, something along those lines. But it would have to be something around legacy.
Okay. All right. So legacy with the myology logo. That's your billboard.
There you go.
Just checking. Yeah.
From your mouth to everyone else's ears.
Yeah, it's like, because what you said with that wasn't going to fit on a billboard, buddy. I get you.
Well, you're a small type.
Yeah, there's a stretch of highway where there's a lot of like cars being rear-ended because people are squinting and
Well, it's multiple billboards in front of each other, so you can read each word at a time. That's what it is.
Oof, yeah. That marketing budget just has skyrocketed.
Just went up a little bit.
Yeah, just a tiny. Cool. And then the standard question for the podcast.
Yeah.
What do you want to see change, if anything, in the next 5 to 10 years in our industry?
So, and this has also been a pretty standard on a lot of the previous podcasts I've listened for you. And it's just something I think that truly does need to happen. Is that needs to be some differentiation when it comes to sports massage and the general massage field, because it's so different. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people that are just going out there and taking a class here and there, because you know how classes go. They take a class for a weekend and they come back and they're an absolute pro. It's going on like business cards. It's going on everything. Hey, I can do this, but literally they have this much experience. Mm-hmm. So the sports realm needs some separation from the traditional massage field. It truly does. Whether it's a licensure or something, but there needs to be some separation.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
I mean, for example, like with the pandemic, mm-hmm. Sports therapists are trained in quite a bit more stuff than just the average massage therapist, and truly should have been considered essential, much like ATs and PTs, and chiros, as far as doing body work.
Sure.
Because we're helping a lot of people with recovery, along with their PTs and all that stuff. So, I mean, that's the type of stuff that I'm kind of getting at. We should have completely earned the right to be considered essential at that point.
Yeah. I guess I would put a slightly broader scope on it, and maybe have like a medical distinction where sport therapists would definitely be in that category, but you know, some of the, you know, generically like the medical massage as a training, like, but advanced training. So I'm with you 100% on the advanced training. But yeah, there's definitely some growth for us to be brought over as healthcare.
So I mean, like when they announced that, you know, medical massage was the only approved modality and whatnot, can you define medical massage a lot of times? It's a pretty broad topic.
It is, and there are, you know, the multiple organizations that offer a medical massage continuing ed. So I mean, it's you know, but very much like sport massage, you can take one class in school and put it on your website, and
So again, you know, that's going back to there needs to be some clarifications and distinctions when you're talking about the medical / sports field.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something I think that we have all earned at this point that are in this field. You know,
definitely. Cool. Alrighty, Vince. Man, that was so much great information.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it so much for joining us.
Dude, I loved it, and I'm honored to be on here. Thank you so much.
We are honored to have you. Thank you for joining us, folks. The mission of Massage Tools Podcast is to inspire. So help us inspire you. Ask questions, leave suggestions in the comments section. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you want to see more content, please click that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and hey, check out these links for other videos here.